The question is, can you give me some tips on what I need for a virtual office? I want to set up a virtual office for my business instead of having a physical location. So I'll run through a list of some things that you'll need, and I'll make some comments along the way. This isn't a complete list, but I jotted down some notes real quick so I could give you some pointers on this. So you're definitely going to start with the core of your operations, which is going to be your technology. I'm, of course, going to recommend Service Autopilot for that, but you need a full business system, in my opinion. You don't want a pieced together business system where you're using 3 or 4 different solutions, spreadsheets and 1 or 2, a scheduling system and a billing system and marketing system. You don't want a lot of pieces. So you want as much as possible to find one solution that your team can learn one thing, and that one thing runs the company. And it, of course, has to be cloud-based. And I would recommend that the company that you're using needs to do all of your backing up for you. Not that you can't back it up, but in a non-office-based scenario, you need to make sure that they're doing constant backups for you, because relying on yourself to do that or remembering to do it, that's too risky. If you want to use QuickBooks, then your options are QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. In either scenario, you could still make the remote office work, because you can have QuickBooks, like for example, if you wanted to use QuickBooks with Service Autopilot, not required, and by the way, this isn't a pitch for Service Autopilot, but if you wanted to use it with a system like Service Autopilot, you don't have to have multiple copies of QuickBooks for each user of Service Autopilot. You would just need one QuickBooks account, in a sense. And so that account could be sitting on a computer at your home, or it could be on your laptop, or it could be somewhere like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the online QuickBooks version. And historically, for many companies, the online QuickBooks version has been too limiting. And so they've stayed with QuickBooks Pro or Enterprise. So if that's what you do and you run a virtual office, you'll just need to keep your QuickBooks file on a computer, and a $300 computer is good enough. Maybe let's call it a $400 computer. That's good enough, and you put QuickBooks on there. So it's a cheap, inexpensive approach, and then that you just need an internet connection to that computer. You'd also want a voice over IP system like RingCentral. So this is your phone system. That way it will work from anywhere. So you could have multiple people with multiple phones in different places, and it will still work. I would look for a voice over IP system. Doesn't have to be RingCentral. I like RingCentral, but I'd look for, and there's a lot of alternatives. So that's just one name. But look for one that can do caller ID spoofing. What that basically means is that when someone on your team calls from their cell phone in the field, that it will show your main office number on that person's caller ID. That way your team does not receive all of the callbacks directly on their cell phone. You don't want your whole team emailing from personal accounts and calling from cell phones, and every emails and calls are going to personal cell phones, and then you don't have any idea what's going on if things are happening and people are getting called back. So my preference is to have the phone calls come back to the office so that you can stay on top of that. And so I think caller ID spoofing is an important feature. Your team will need cell phones. They're gonna live on these phones. They're gonna be on these phones all the time. So spend the money on good ones. I would not cut corners on buying a good quality mobile device, good quality cell phone. You'd also think about, you need a central location to store your files, so important company files. And so I would think about Dropbox or Microsoft SharePoint for storing files. Microsoft's not really the big thing anymore these days, but Microsoft SharePoint is an interesting program. I think Dropbox is more interesting, but SharePoint, they're less expensive and they have some interesting functionality. And Microsoft has a competitor to Dropbox that works with SharePoint, and I forget now what the name of that is, but they have a direct competitor with Dropbox that works through SharePoint. And Microsoft's doing a really good job with some of their online Office and their new Outlook that runs online. So SharePoint's interesting because it works with all of that. I'm not sure if I'm promoting SharePoint, but it is interesting for many reasons when compared directly to Dropbox. But you need a central repository for all of your company files so that they're not spread across everyone's computers. That they might be on people's computers, but they're also synced up on the web that anybody can get to. So when it comes to email, I would recommend either using Gmail or Microsoft Outlook on the web, not the desktop version of Outlook. Microsoft has a new Microsoft Outlook. It's like Gmail. It's up on the web. I would use either Gmail or Microsoft Outlook. And when I say Gmail, that doesn't mean your email has to come from a person's address, like mary@gmail.com. It would come from mary at your company's website address.com. And so Gmail can host all of your email accounts. It doesn't, I'm not just referring to a Gmail account per se, but Gmail will act as Microsoft Outlook has acted in the past, where it hosts your email accounts. So I highly recommend Gmail or Microsoft Outlook, and you would have an individual email address for each person on the team as well as a company email address. You'd also need laptops. I would not buy any desktop computers. I'd buy all laptops. I would invest in some tablets. For some people, you might find in their truck that it makes sense to give them a laptop with a good keyboard. This is becoming less and less important as the keyboards are getting pretty good for tablets. So historically, I've preferred laptops mounted on a stand inside the truck, because if the person's going to live out of the truck, they need to be able to really sit there and type on a really good keyboard, where pecking away on a tablet's kind of slow. And so I've still been sort of fond of a laptop, but I think that's changing a little bit. So you'd have to make a decision between laptops and tablets, and the tablets would need a very good keyboard. Don't be cheap on the keyboard. And I alluded to a stand, whether it's a tablet or a laptop. If the individual is going to be sitting in their truck working, then you need to give them a good space to work within, a place to keep their papers so that they're not just sitting on the seat, a place to hold the laptop or tablet and the keyboard so that it's firm and it's not bouncing as they're typing. So you need to think about that environment, because that's where they'll spend quite a bit of time. I also believe that you have to have a meeting place. You've got to have a place where you can get together about, eventually as you get bigger, do safety meetings, where you can get together as a group and talk about your issues. You're still going to need a yard. You're going to still need a place. Maybe you don't have an office at the yard, or maybe you have a yard with the equivalent of a mobile home trailer sitting on that yard. But you're going to still have to have a place where you can meet as a team periodically and maybe get out of the weather, a place that you can do a little training, a place that you can throw some pictures up on a video monitor and show them to the team. So you'll still need a space, but it doesn't need to be a full-fledged office. I would recommend that, because the thing you don't want to happen by having a remote office or a virtual office is to start dropping the ball on training and showing guys problems and showing them how to overcome the problems there. For example, let's say you find a fungus issue or someone had an accident. You need to teach the team on how to resolve that fungus issue or how to avoid that type of an accident in the future. So you do still want sort of a meeting place. And your guys are still going to have to meet with the crews, spot check the crews. They're going to have to stay on top of that. And so you need to make sure that they are equipped with everything they need to meet with them, possibly in the mornings, to show up at properties where they're at. So think about that. You're going to need a place to store your equipment. So again, this would be your yard. In a virtual office, you might really think about setting up your truck so that you can keep all of your equipment self-contained, so that you're not having to load and unload. I would also recommend having a GPS system in the truck. I tend to like Fleetmatics. They're a bit more expensive, but I like Fleetmatics. There's plenty of alternatives. But even with like for example, with Service Autopilot, where there is GPS tracking on a mobile device, there's still advantages to having GPS tracking inside the truck, or you might think there is still advantages. Not everybody would agree with that, but some companies might still want a GPS unit in the truck. So if you're using a good mobile software solution that has GPS tracking on the mobiles, you'd need to decide if that's enough, or if you want GPS also on the truck in case the truck is stolen, or to tell how fast they're driving in the truck, to know if it's idling. I think it's a little less important to have it in the truck now that GPS systems are starting to show up on mobile devices, but you need GPS of some form. Also for basic project management, I'm not referring to the projects that you're doing in the field, but for the internal projects that you're doing. And I'm not referring to your to-dos. I'm referring to thoughts, ideas, planning, things you want to do in the future, collaboration with the team. So this is kind of planning activities where you're keeping a list of things, or you've plotted out, here's a project we need to do internally, and here are the 25 steps it takes to get this done. I really like a program called Trello, Trello. I love this program, and I use it extensively. And it's not a business operational system. I think of it as just a basic internal project management system, but you can do all kinds of things with it. For example, at our Service Autopilot office, we have a Trello board, and on that board is the grocery list or office supply list. And so anytime somebody needs something, they just drop it on the list. Once a week, someone on our team reads the list, orders everything off it. Somebody needs a new laptop or a piece of equipment, it goes on the equipment list. Someone on our team will go pick that up every so often, or order that through Amazon every so often. And it doesn't then require that we all have meetings with each other. You could just as easily make some of that stuff a to-do inside Service Autopilot, but we use, for us, Service Autopilot and Trello for some of our basic planning and writing down ideas. I keep my reading list. So if there's something I want to read and I don't want to be bothered and interrupted right now, I'll drop a reading list item or an article into Trello, and I'll read it later when I have time. And it's fully accessible from mobiles, from your desktop, and it's a great collaboration tool. So you might think about or look at that. It's free. For collaboration, if you're not getting together very often, you might think about something like Google Hangouts. That's a place where you can do video with each other, and it's free. You also should consider a program called Jing. So I'm just throwing out lots of ideas. Jing is a way you can capture 5 minutes of screen video. It's free. So if you need to communicate something to your team, you can quickly capture 5 minutes of video and send that over to your team. And they can see your screen and see what you're trying to communicate. There's also a product called Vocaroo. And Vocaroo.com is a place where you can record an audio message and send it to someone or a group of people. I love that program. And it's a way that you could quickly record a message, send it out to your team, and you don't have to have a lot of one-on-one individual calls. You can use some video. In my examples, you can use some audio and communicate messaging. I'd also recommend that you password protect all your phones and your laptops with really good passwords. About 9 characters, in fact, letters and numbers, uppercase and lowercase. And it should be a requirement that your team has a password on their devices. You're in a mobile environment where you're a virtual office, you have a lot of critical information. For example, if they have a Dropbox link on their cell phone, somebody gets that cell phone, now they have access to all of your Dropbox files. They have access to all of your email through Gmail. So they need to have a password protected device, and it needs to be a good password. And so something very important to think about. I'd leave with this. It takes a good amount of work to make a virtual office work, and a lot of employees cannot work in that environment. One, they're not self-motivated enough, so you have to be very careful in the hiring process. Or two, they don't like it. You're by yourself all the time, and there's really a little bit less social interaction. And this would be more true for those that are working from their home versus those out in the field or a salesperson. That's generally not as much of a problem for that type of person, but somebody working in the office that's not really doing a lot of phone work, it can get a little mundane just sitting at home by yourself and never leaving that environment. So it's not cut and dry. Not everybody likes it. It's not perfect. It's really super simple. There's a different kind of management you have to do, and there's a different level of, you have to be proactive about bringing the team together and communicating, and you have to work, I believe, even harder in a remote office situation, in a virtual office situation. So you have to be extremely careful who you hire to make this work. And so those are some tips. I hope they give you some ideas. Of course, there's a lot more to know on that subject, but that should give you some ideas with some things to look at and things to think about. Good luck.